This video is on coming to God slash Jesus slash etc. information. The first subsection are the Old Testament entries. Jeremiah chapter 2 verse 31 says, "Come to God." God, speaking through Jeremiah, says, "You of this generation, consider the word of the Lord. Have I been a desert to Israel, or a land of great darkness? Why do my people say, 'We are free to roam'? We will come to you no more." Jeremiah chapter 3 verse 22 says, "Come to God." God, speaking through Jeremiah, says, "Return, faithless people, I will cure you of backsliding." The people then responded, "Yes, we will come to you, for you are the Lord our God." Jeremiah chapter 29 verse 12 says, "Come to God." God, through Jeremiah, says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. Then you will call upon me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you." Isaiah chapter 55 verse 3 says, "Come to God." God says, "Give ear and come to me. Hear me, that your soul may live. I will make an everlasting covenant with you, my faithful love promised to David." The next subsection is gospel entries that literally had people coming to Jesus. So an example of this is Matthew chapter 9 verse 28. It says, "Come to Jesus." It says, "When he had gone indoors, the blind men came to him, and he asked them, 'Do you believe that I am able to do this?' 'Yes, Lord,' they replied." The other entries are Matthew chapter 21 verse 14. It says, "Come to Jesus. The blind and the lame came to him at the temple, and he healed them." Mark chapter 2 verse 13 says, "Come to Jesus." It says, "Once again Jesus went out beside the lake. A large crowd came to him, and he began to teach them." Mark chapter 10 verse 1 says, "Come to Jesus." Jesus then left that place and went into the region of Judea and across the Jordan. Again crowds of people came to him, and as was his custom he taught them. Mark chapter 10 verse 50 says, "Come to Jesus." Jesus stopped and said, "Call him." So they called to the blind man, "Cheer up, on your feet, he's calling you." Throwing his cloak aside, he jumped to his feet and came to Jesus. Luke chapter 5 verse 15 says, "Come to Jesus to be healed of your sicknesses." It says, "Yet the news about him spread all the more, so that crowds of people came to hear him and to be healed of their sicknesses." Luke chapter 6 verse 18 says, "Come to Jesus to be healed." It says, "A large crowd of his disciples were there, and a great number of people from all over Judea, from Jerusalem, and from the coast of Tyre and Sidon, who had come to hear him and to be healed of their diseases." Luke chapter 8 verse 4 says, "Come to Jesus from town after town." It says, "While a large crowd was gathering and people were coming to Jesus from town after town, he told this parable." John chapter 12 verse 9 says, "Come to Jesus." It says, "Meanwhile, a large crowd of Jews found out that Jesus was there and came, not only because of him, but also to see Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead." The next subsection is gospel entries where people are not literally coming to Jesus. John chapter 3 verse 20 says, "Come into the light." Jesus here is talking to Nicodemus. He says, "Everyone who does evil hates the light and will not come into the light for fear that his deeds will be exposed." Luke chapter 6 verse 47 says, "Come to Jesus." It says, "I will show you what he is like who comes to me and hears my words and puts them into practice. He is like a man building a house who dug down deep and laid the foundation on rock." John chapter 5 verse 40 says, "Come to Jesus to have life." Jesus, to the Jews who were trying to kill him, said, "You diligently study the scriptures because you think that by them you possess eternal life. These are the scriptures that testify about me, yet you refuse to come to me to have life." John chapter 6 verse 35 says, "Come to Jesus." It says, "Then Jesus declared, 'I am the bread of life. He who comes to me will never go hungry, and he who believes in me will never be thirsty." John chapter 6 verse 44 says, "Come to Jesus." Jesus says, "No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up at the last day." John chapter 6 verse 44 says, No one can come to Jesus unless the Father who sent Jesus draws him." It's the same verse as before. John chapter 6 verse 65 says, "Come to Jesus." Jesus says, "Yet there are some of you who do not believe. This is why I told you that no one can come to me unless the Father has enabled him." John chapter 6 verse 65 says, no one can come to Jesus unless God has enabled him. It's the same verse as before. John chapter 7 verse 37 says, "Come to Jesus and drink." On the last and greatest day of the feast, Jesus stood and said in a loud voice, "If anyone is thirsty, let him come to me and drink." John chapter 14 verse 6 says, "Come to God through Jesus." Jesus answered, "I am the way, and the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me." The post-gospel entries are the final category. Hebrews chapter 7 verse 25 says, "Come to God through Jesus." The author of the Hebrews says, "Therefore, he is able to save completely those who come to God through him, because he always lives to intercede for them." Hebrews chapter 11 verse 6 says, "Come to God." The author of Hebrews says, "And without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 4 says, "Come to Jesus." Peter says, "As you come to him, the living stone, rejected by men, but chosen by God and precious to him, you also, like living stones, are being built into a spiritual house." Revelation chapter 22 verse 17 says, "Come if you are thirsty." The spirits and the bride say, "Come," and let him who hears say, "Come." Whoever is thirsty, let him come, and whoever wishes, let him take the free gift of the water of life.